Welcome, my lovely grade 4s, to WorksheetCloud.com's online lessons. I would like to take this opportunity to warmly welcome any of my new viewers for today. I hope you are as excited as I am to get into this lesson. It's something that's one of my favorite subjects or topics in English. So it's quite exciting for me to be doing this lesson with you today. So I hope you brought your besides your enthusiasm, I hope you brought a pencil or pen with you and a page so that you can write some things down. And also, grade 4s, remember that if you have any questions about this lesson or any of my other lessons, to send an email to grade4@worksheetcloud.com and we will get back to you as soon as we can after this lesson. So, without wasting any of your time, grade 4s, let's get into this lesson. So today's lesson, like I said, is on a topic that I absolutely love. Okay, and I'm sure those of you that have been with me from the start knows this, so it won't be a surprise to you. So today we're going to be analyzing a poem. Okay, and like you all know, or some of you that have been with me for so long, you know that I like to use our creativity. I like us to explore our talents and in our imaginations, and poetry, especially poetry using adjectives and figures of speech, it ignites that. Okay, so that's what makes this quite exciting for me, especially. So let's look at the lesson outline for today. We're going to be doing a sentence today, okay? Most of you know exactly what we're going to do over there. We try to remind ourselves, and you know what? The more we practice something, the better we get at it. So, the more we do our sentences each day, and remember, even if you don't have a language lesson on a particular day, go and write out your own sentences and see if you can break it up into its parts of speech. And then we're going to recap on figures of speech, because figures of speech is very close to poetry. They are one of the tools that you use to analyze a poem. And so we're going to have to recap on that. And we've done that right in the beginning of our lessons. And then we're going to read a poem, identify a theme. So we normally have to identify a theme when it comes to any kind of text, even if it's a story. The theme, or in a poem as well, it tells us what exactly the poem is about or where it's steering towards. And then we're going to analyze the poem together. So as you can see, grade 4s, I am wearing my specs, but it reflects on the light of the camera. So I'm going to take my specs off now, just so that you actually, it doesn't interrupt your viewing of this lesson. So forgive me if I come too close to the screen, because, you know, without my specs, I struggle to see. Right, so a sentence a day. Our sentence is, James fell into the lake and nobody could help him. It's a proper noun we have there right in front, and so the first one is given to you, grade 4. So what I would like you to do now is to break this up into parts of speech on your own, and then see how many you got right when I give the answers. Good luck, grade 4s. Right, so let me put the answers up. They are mixed up, so we're going to match them, and let's see. Okay, so like I said, the first one was given to you already. So now the next one, we are going to match them correctly. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to take my pen out of here. And So my pen is out. So James fell into the lake and nobody could help him. Okay, so here we have it. Okay, James, as I've said in the beginning, is a proper noun, okay, because it starts with a capital letter and it's the name of someone. Now, fell is our doing word. It's the verb in the sentence, and therefore we have to match it to the verb. Into tells us where something is in relation to something else, and therefore it is a preposition, which is over here. The definite article, there's only one type of those, and I have it over there. Lake is a common noun, okay? It's the name of a, like some river-like object. So it's not a river, it doesn't flow like towards something. It's like a big, massive pool that is formed naturally, okay? So that is a common noun. And then and is a conjunction because this word is joining these two sentences over there. So if we separate it, the sentences would say, James fell into the lake, nobody could help him. Those are two separate sentences that are now joined by the word and. Okay, so that's our conjunction. And then nobody, we're going to come back to nobody because that is a little bit of a confusing one, and we're going to come back to that one. And could is an auxiliary verb. It is assisting the verb help here. Okay, so it's assisting or helping that verb. And auxiliary verbs are also known as helping verbs. So it is a verb, and then I can actually match them over there. And then him is a pronoun. Now here's something funny, grade 4s. Okay, what's funny is that when we are busy with our parts of speech, it's easy to get confused. As you can see, I purposely put this word over here, adverb, into the lot. But the adverb, there is no adverbs in this sentence. Okay, there are no adverbs in the sentence. So therefore, we have to think now, what could nobody possibly be? And I know the usual thing is that if we don't know it, must be an adverb, okay? Because usually it can be, but in this particular sentence, it is not. So nobody is actually used in place of a noun, okay, or nouns in this case. And therefore, it is also a pronoun. So we can match two pronouns, two words to the pronoun. So it's nobody and him. Okay, and yes, of course, I threw in the little spanner over there. But that's why you need to know them quite well, grade 4s, because sometimes when you're in a multiple choice question, especially, they can ask you the question and then you get confused and you think that probably is the correct answer when it is not. So that is our sentence today, and I hope that you got all of it right. If you didn't, always the next time. And remember, you only learn when you get things wrong. So when you make a mistake, you correct it, and then you move on. So we're going to recap on figures of speech before we get into the poem. This is because figures of speech are used quite often when it comes to poetry. So we're going to just recap on our figures of speech. Okay, here we have it. Simile is a direct comparison using as or like. I'm going to underline this because as or like is very important in a figure of speech sentence or a poem, because simile and metaphors can often get confused with one another. And that's based on the fact that the one has as or like and the other one does not. But they are both direct comparisons. And because they're both direct comparisons, it's difficult, it's easy to get confused between the two. So a simile, direct comparison, which would be an example of, he is as tall as a giraffe. Okay, I'm using the word as So therefore, it is a simile. But if I had to say he is a giraffe without using the word as, it would then be a metaphor. So I'm comparing the boy to a giraffe. That's a direct comparison between the two. Okay? But if I say he is as tall as a giraffe, it is a simile. If I say he is a giraffe, it is a metaphor. Personification is giving lifelike qualities to inanimate objects. So, I am therefore giving life, qualities of life, to things that are not usually alive. So, the desk shook with anger. Now, yes, the desk can shake, but it cannot shake on its own. Okay, so if I'm saying the desk shook with anger, anger is a human emotion, and I'm giving that lifelike quality to the desk. Therefore, it is known as personification. If I had to say, the sun smiled on me, I'm actually saying that the sun was warm, it felt good, but using the word smiled, I am now giving that lifelike quality to the sun. Okay, and therefore, it's also known as personification. Rhyme are words that sound similar at the end of sentences, and we use them in poetry. And we're definitely going to have some rhyming in the poem that I have for you today. So rhyming is like ball, call, small, fall. Okay? I had a ball, then I had a ball, and I had a fall. Okay? Those words rhyme. It was the ball was quite small. Okay, so at the end of those sentences, those words all rhyme, and that is what the rhyming words are. Onomatopoeia. Okay, very fun word to say. It sounds written in sentences. So I would therefore write out the sound. Okay, woof, the dog went. Woof, onomatopoeia. Bang went the gun. Okay, that's onomatopoeia. And then alliteration is repetitive consonants in the beginning of words. So it's when I say funny Fred, okay? It's funny Fred. Those words have the same consonants at the beginning of each word, and therefore it is alliteration. Now we can go into more detail with other kinds of figures of speech, like assonance, okay, which is the vowels again. But for the purposes of grade 4 for now, we're just going to focus on these few, and then we'll get into that, okay? And I'm sure you can go read up on it further if you'd like to go and find out what other kind of figures of speech there are out there. So let's get into analyzing this poem. So the poem's called Books by Sanya Tandor. I'm going to move out of your way, grade 4, so that you can see the poem. I'm still here. Don't worry, I haven't gone anywhere. So, my best friend is a book that doesn't give me a weird look. It is a golden door that takes me to the land where I've never been before. It tells me the tales of a fairy and takes me to the land full of merry. Some books are boring like history, which is like a big mystery. Books are the source of enlightenment that vanquish darkness and fill our life with brightness. Okay, I'm going to read it again. Books by Sanya Tandor. My best friend is a book that doesn't give me a weird look. It is like a golden door that takes me to the land where I have never been before. It tells me tales of a fairy that take me to the land full of merry. Some books are boring like history, which is like a big mystery. Books are the source of enlightenment that vanquish darkness and fill our life with brightness. Okay, beautiful poem by Sanya Tandor. Okay, and I found, and there is the source of where I got my poem from. So if you guys want to read up on some more poetry, please go and check it out. Okay, so let's get into the analyzing of this poem. Okay, so we are going to already have my pen out, and you can have your pencil out or pause it right now so that you can work out how we're going to figure out the theme and also the different figures of speech in this poem. Okay, so my best friend is a book. Okay, that doesn't give me a weird look. So there I can see I have some rhyming words right in the very beginning of my poem. It's book and look. And if we're going to look at these two lines, it tells you exactly what the theme of the story is already. Okay, and the theme of this poem is learning. Okay, it's about having a best friend that's a book. And it's strange because normally your best friend is another person your age, round about your age. Okay, but in this case, the person's best friend is a book. So you can already assume that the person loves reading. So that is what you have to do when you have a poem in front of you, grade fours, is that you have to kind of take information or infer information from the poem that's not stated clearly. So the poet is not saying that they like reading, but they are saying that their best friend is a book. So you infer that the person loves to read. It's like a golden door. Okay, so here we go. We have a simile over here that they're comparing the book to a golden door. Okay, using the word like. That takes me to the land where I have never been before. Another rhyming word over there. Door and before. And remember now the person saying, the Sanya saying, the author of the poem is saying now that books takes her to places that she's never thought of before because they open up your imagination. They allow you to see things that you wouldn't normally have been able to see. It takes me to the lands of a fairy, like fairy tales or Cinderella. Takes you to those kind of lands, okay, or tales that are fiction. They're not real, but it allows your imagination to open up and see these things. It takes me to the land filled with merry. So there we have another two rhyming words, and the merry is another word for happiness. So it makes this poet feel good and happy and contented because they are reading these books that are filled with such happiness. Here the author goes on to say that not all books are fun and exciting. Okay, she says that some books are boring, not interesting. Okay, and we can actually see the alliteration over here with books and boring. Remember, alliteration doesn't particularly have to be next to each other as long as they are closely related. Some books are boring like history, so we can already see that this poet does not like history, okay? And she's like, and that's a big mystery. So she doesn't know why it's so boring, but history is not fun for her at all, okay? And then books are the source of enlightenment. So it helps you to open up your mind, is what the poet's saying. That's where you find your more knowledge. And the only way you get knowledge is if you read. And that is very true because you can open your mind up by opening a book. And that is what you need to keep remembering, grade fours, as you get older. The more you read, the more you know. And that vanquish darkness and fill our lives with brightness. So she's now saying that books come and they just take away all the suffering and anger that you might have and fill your life with some extra kind of brightness and excitement because now you are actually opening your mind and you're opening your imagination to something new, which grade fours is very important, especially at your age to remember. And you know what I always say, grade fours, explore your talents, explore your creativity. So, as we got through this poem, now you can see the theme is definitely knowledge, and the poet used a range of figures of speech and poetry techniques to make this poem a bit more exciting and interesting for you to read. So, grade fours, thank you so much for watching this lesson and joining me on this discovery of poetry. You know how much I love it. And also, grade fours, go and read up on some more poetry. I did leave the source of the poem on one of the previous slides. So, go back, check it out, and read some more poetry and see if you can analyze them as well. Again, grade 4s, if you have any questions or queries, please send an email to grade4@worksheetcloud.com and we will get back to you as soon as we can after this lesson. There is an activity provided you based on poetry and figures of speech after this lesson. Grade 4s, I really hope that you enjoyed this lesson and that you actually learned something, and that if you're a bit confused about something still, please watch the lesson again, or in turn remember to send us the email. So from me, Mrs. Nicole Frank, have a wonderful day further, grade 4s. Goodbye.